Hello and welcome to the Heritage Pod. I am Pragya and today we have with us Professor Agnijita Mukherjee. Hello ma'am.
Hi Pragya.
So ma'am, in today's age, many kinds of films are being made. So as a student, how do we differentiate between them?
Okay, so that's actually a very interesting question. So one of the easiest ways in which we can kind of make sense of the sheer volume of films that we have today is by categorizing them into genres. So the term genre sounds French, and not only does it sound so, it is originating from a French term. That means basically a kind of something. So genres are films that can be clubbed together into particular categories based on usually characters, settings, plots, or the narrative, the story, and definitely things like your elements, which are your lighting, your cinematography, etc. Now, if we have to categorize genres and understand how these categorizations work, first we can start with the different elements based on which we can categorize these films into different genres. So the first element would definitely be the setting of the film. So for example, if we see a film that is set, for example, in outer space, right? We can see spaceships, we can see futuristic settings. So usually these clues or these settings signify that this film is set in somewhere in the future or in another planet or in another solar system. So we are basically looking at the sci-fi genre. Similarly, if we see vast expanses on screen and we are seeing, vast landscapes like the prairies in America, right? We are seeing what we commonly know as cowboys, right, on horseback, and we see certain arid landscapes. So those settings are mostly characteristic of the Western genre. And these settings vary from one genre to the other. And they help us understand, or they help give audiences an idea of what to expect from a particular film. And not only that, categorizing a film based on genre is also important because it helps writers also guide the film and take it forward on its natural kind of narrative path or narrative arc, so to say. So these are the two main things why genre is important. So that is also there. Additionally, apart from settings, if I have to move on to another characteristic, it would be the characters that appear in the film. So for example, if we see a hard-boiled detective who is bitter about the world, who has seen it all, and appears to be very hardened on the outside, doesn't really care about the niceties of the world. Usually these hard-boiled detective tropes or these characters appear in film noir, right? And these detectives also often meet another particular kind of character, which are called femme fatales, right? So you have these women who appear gorgeous, beautiful, but mysterious, and they turn out to be often villainous, for the lack of a better word. They turn out to be manipulative, and they somehow appeal to the protective nature of the hard-boiled detective, and they get them involved in something that these characters would normally not want to get involved in. So this set of characters are usually found in film noir, right? Another example would be if you see cowboys on screen, if you see a marshal on screen, right? A lot of times you can even see outlaws or anti-heroes who are basically protagonists but with a different motivation of the character. And you see them in a town full of people who are in a place which is arid, which is not inhabited. They are trying to set that town up, and they are facing problems with different kinds of gangs, right? Or different people who are coming to plunder and loot the town. So usually this set of characters can be found in Westerns, or they are characteristic of the Western genre. Similarly, another characteristic that can help us understand what genre the film belongs to is also the plot or the story of the film. So for example, if we are talking about a film where we see two characters meeting, right? So there is a proverbial hero and a heroine, or an actress, and they meet in a very interesting, very sweet, romantic, cute way. So that this initial meeting is usually called a meet cute, and this particular element in the story or the narrative is evident in the romantic genre, or the romantic comedy genre, in fact. So these are certain examples of the story elements that can be used for different genres, right? At the same time, for a film like belonging to a film noir genre, you can have stories that have revenge attached to it. You can have stories that have, murder, that have crime, that have manipulation and, betrayal attached to it. Another set of formal characteristics that can help us make sense of which genre the film belongs to can be things like cinematography. So, for example, if we are looking at film noir as a genre, one of the cinematography elements that is very evident in film noir is low-key, high-contrast lighting, right? So we have characters that have, very, very bright, key lights usually on them, and that's offset by very high contrast. So the shadows are very sharp. You will see elements like streets that usually tend to be rain-soaked, right? So rain-drenched streets. You will have a lot of darkness in the film. So a lot of times, a lot of film noir films are set in interior locations, which are also characteristic of being very suffocating, which make people feel very claustrophobic, trapped almost. So these certain elements of how you shoot these characters in, or what location you shoot these characters in, those also become very important. An element like music is another element that is very important in defining or helping to define a particular genre. So for example, musicals is the most common or the most obvious genre where music becomes a very important characteristic. So if you take, for example, The Sound of Music, or if you take, for example, the film Singing in the Rain. So these films, the music is almost, a defining aspect of the film. Music is what makes the film live on, years or decades after the film has released. So there are classics like I'm Singing in the Rain, there are classics like A Beautiful Girl, there are classics like Doe a Deer, Raindrops on Roses. We've all kind of grown up hearing these tracks. And they are very, very important when it comes to this particular genre of the musical. Even recently, if you look at La La Land, it is a musical, but it's almost a film that has revised the genre of the musical completely. So that makes it extremely interesting to understand how music can be characteristic of a particular genre. Also, things like the Western. As a genre, again, you will have very interesting soundtracks, background soundtracks that help to really offset a particular scene, especially if you have to kind of ensure that you set up suspense. So music is an element which you can set up suspense with, especially in the films, the spaghetti Western films that I'm going to talk about a little later. But when you have films by Sergio Leone, you can actually see the soundtracks becoming very definitive of the film that is playing on screen. At the same time, horror is another genre where the soundtrack and the music is essential in terms of heightening the suspense of the film, in terms of heightening that fear quotient, which really is, the bread and butter for the horror genre, if you will. So these are mostly the elements that help to really define a genre and really help to outline and help audiences and writers at the same time make sense of what genre, what category the film belongs to, and take it forth from there.
Thank you, ma'am. For more such insights, keep watching the Heritage Pod. Thank you.